welcome back, everybody. Commissioners, we've got another budget meeting on Thursday, and most of Thursday, I believe it's a good bit, it's going to be spent with the volunteer fire departments to talk about their budgets. That's going to take up the whole evening? Okay. So, I mean, we've got some time tonight for some general discussion. We've had a lot of presentations the last couple days, and I wanted to see, are there any questions that you have that staff can answer for us? Any suggestions you have as far as funding, answering a request that we've had, maybe that's not in the manager's budget, or any suggestions that you have that should be looked at between now and Thursday, so that maybe Thursday night we're not here too late. One of the things Commissioner White just mentioned while we were off camera was about the North Carolina Forest Service. And so, Mr. Downs, can you give us an update on the situation that we're facing with that?
Sure. Currently, there's 2 employees that are housed in the county. In fact, their offices are in the Wasack building there. The state, in their efforts to, whether it's consolidate services, consolidate locations, save money, they're looking at locating to create a joint office in Mecklenburg County over in the Hickory Grove, the Newell area, over behind near UNCC, back off, is that Old Concord Road, back in that particular area. So they would locate their foresters, and then our foresters would have their home base there. I talked to one of the regional directors 2 days ago, or actually last Friday, and it's an effort to save money. It's not an effort, in his opinion, this would not have any impact, negative impact on the services within the county. His explanation was that they spend the majority of their time, or he would like for them to spend the majority of their time in the field anyway, and in their trucks, so the equipment would still be where it needs to be. I know we have some concerns from our farmers, from our firemen, from some of our large property owners that deal with our forester on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, that he would not be as accessible, whether it's planting their next growth of trees, or planning or creating an emergency plan, or responding to a brush fire or a forest fire. So they have some concerns. We did talk to the director. They're moving along. They're trying to secure that location. They have not done so, but that is their intention to do so. So we asked them that a lot of this stuff is moving forward, and we weren't able to contribute to the conversation or the decision. We know that they get the ultimate decision, but we would like to have had some input. So we got our opportunity last Friday, and then we also asked them, once he or the state do make their final plans, that they need to come in and have a public meeting with all of those stakeholders and explain to them their plan and why they think that there's not going to be a negative impact. So,
how much money are we providing for the forestry?
well, typically I think it's in the area, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think it's about $55,000. However, this year they're asking for a new vehicle for one of the 2 employees, which is about $32,000. So I think it's up around $86,000.
Erica, do you have those numbers off the top of your head?
I do have those numbers. Currently, we fund the forester $68,630.
Okay.
There is a $16,000 increase, which is primarily for the truck, which brings it up to the number $84,000.
Do we have to fund them that amount?
We do not. In fact, I did question the new vehicle. It is needed based on their miles served and the age of the vehicle. However, they said it was not an emergency, that if we could push that out a year, he would be fine with that.
How do we know that they are committed to Cabarrus County if they move to Mecklenburg County?
That, again, we asked those questions as well, and he assured me that that was not their intent.
I understand that's not their intent. How do we know that they're going to continue to service Cabarrus County as opposed to taking our money and putting it in Mecklenburg County?
Right. Well, the 2 employees that we partially fund are still going to be dedicated to Cabarrus County. In fact, He said that there may be times when the two from Mecklenburg would be able to respond as well in a joint effort across the county lines if needed, since they're based out of the same office, and I'm sure likewise the other way as well.
He
So-
gave us an example of the Gaston Lincoln has done the same thing. They share an office and have the same concerns, and that's what he said he wanted to talk to our fire chief and those landowners about, was how that works, that they're still working the Gaston County Forestry in Gaston, Lincoln and Lincoln, and then they just, of course, as Mike said, are able to back each other up when necessary, which is what they do already.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is meeting face-to-face, because those same concerns, I was at the Cattlemen's Association meeting the other night, and they expressed all these same concerns and want to hear it directly.
Well, until we know that we're going to be serviced for that, I would say we either withhold all funding, or we withhold, we pay in a year's, next year, we pay for this year. They provide the services, and then we pay for them.
A year.
Yeah, a year, either that or,
Our current contract, it's an annual contract, and we're responsible. We pay 40% for the forester and 16%, I believe, for the additional employee. There's different opinions on how it's working in the Lincoln and Gaston counties as well.
right, and
so
I'm saying is either that, or if we cannot, because the contract's renewed or something like that, then I do not think that we fund the truck until we know that
Okay.
they are actually going to be provided. That's my opinion. If they're going to move it, if we're going to pay any monies towards them, then I want to make certain that we, the Cabarrus County, is getting the services that we're paying for, and I don't want to be buying a truck for somebody that's going to be tooling around Mecklenburg County.
Well, also, if they're doing it for cost savings, then I think we should share in the cost savings. I mean, it shouldn't just be a...
There will be a share. That was the other question. If you're going across there and you own the building, then there should be savings. Why is the same amount for office rental showing up in this year's budget? They've not had a chance, since they haven't secured the property, they haven't updated their budgets yet. So it appears that it would be about a $3,000 decrease in the office rental line item.
Who will own that office?
I believe they will. I think they're trying to secure the deed to it right now.
If they're gonna save $3,000 to be in Mecklenburg, how much of that is gonna be spent for them to come back and forth to Cabarrus County?
That's a very good question. In fuel
Yeah,
and time.
and time. I don't see where there'd be no savings.
Commissioner White, you were just saying withhold the funding for the truck this year, not the entire funding, or?
I'd like to do it all, but I don't think that's right. I mean, I think that we at least look at the funding for the positions, but I do say we withhold funding for the truck until we know they're going to be providing the services to Cabarrus County that we're accustomed to. And if we are, then fine, we'll talk about the truck.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
Do you have any idea of the timeline that
They are doing everything possible right now to make that happen, to get that piece of property. And I don't know.
Okay. Well, it would be nice if they would come and talk to us and the folks that they actually service. So I think it's important when you make a change to get out in front of it and not be coming up behind it and having to, pardon the pun, put out fires on the backside if you can go ahead and lay the groundwork at the beginning.
And Mr. Brandon said he would come to the Fire Chiefs Association meeting, and then I also sent him the contact information for the Cattlemen's Association, because they had some interest, and of course, Soil and Water is another one that works with them, so we'll provide that to you when they set that date.
Okay. Okay, there are a number of, if you look on page 3 and 4, as far as what we have before us today are contributions to other agencies. We've also talked about, of course, we've had the presentations the last week, the 2 different presentations. Are there any, the one that I want to ask about is the EDC. You mentioned previously in your budget that you've got the same amount. Where is that? Wait a minute.
The line item.
You got 262.
for the EDC that is listed as 262, and that would hold them flat. However, there is $50,000 in a non-departmental line item that, with the understanding that it would be used for the EDC if you, the programs that were submitted the other night, if you think they're going to be beneficial, that we would move forward and help fund those. And the city of Concord is doing the same thing at $15,000 apiece. Concord and Kannapolis is reviewing their budgets in the same manner.
To do an additional 15 each?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Wasack has joined for another 15?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay. So, your thoughts on what would amount to an increase to EDC for $50,000?
Well, unfortunately, that evening I was arriving as their presentation was ending, but I plan to reach out to Mr. Cox and try to get a more detailed understanding before I make an opinion.
I'm okay with the additional $50,000 from what way it was presented the other day. Seems like it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be money that's going to be spent on entrepreneurial and small business, which is what I think is very important, and it's another aspect of economic development that we've promoted in years past, and I think we need to continue to promote.
Commissioner Burridge, any comments, thoughts?
If it's going to help small businesses, I don't have a problem with it, but if it's going for salaries and traveling all over the country to get businesses in here, I wouldn't approve of it.
It was my understanding is that the 50,000, about 21,000 was for entrepreneurs, youth or younger entrepreneurs, and then the other portion was to strengthen small businesses is what I remember. I don't remember specifically.
Yeah, there was the Market Street study that was done about 5 years ago. It actually came back with recommendations for Rowan and Cabarrus, and it really wasn't feasible to do a plan that included 2 counties. So this would be to go back and update that plan and then implement the findings there.
My only hesitation that I see is that we have the Sustainability Council and that effort to try to, focus on smaller businesses and.
We are. In fact, Jonathan met with them the other day. We're trying to gear them toward one of their biggest charges was the regulatory reform. So we're going to move them in that direction as well. And then on the educational side as well, sort of a storage house for education for somebody that want to start a building, a new business. Where do I go? Who do I see? Who do I talk to? And on the regulatory reform side is that as we update our ordinances, amend our ordinances, if it's anything to do with land use ordinances is what I'm referring to, if it's anything to do with business, existing businesses or new businesses, that they have the opportunity to review those standards and sort of at least give their opinion or a recommendation to the planning board, and then ultimately it may get to your board as well, on what impact that has on a business, on a local business or a small business. Is it driveway cuts? Is it trees and shrubs? Is it number of parking spaces? Some of those additional costs that sometimes they're required by ordinances, but they do sometimes have the ability to take away what that small bit you have to invest in your initial startup. So this will give them the opportunity as small business owners themselves to sort of offer that advice to the planning board prior to them making their decisions.
Okay. Yeah, I feel that would be a critical component of, our local economy and, the business owners having a say-so and,
Right.
Our local government and the procedures and guidelines.
And I'm okay with the presentation, moving that $50,000 for the EDC. So, of course, we don't have Commissioner Caruth here tonight to chime in on that one. Other areas, I don't know, we talked about Rowan Cabarrus, the schools. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments. We did get an email today from Cabarrus County Schools giving an idea of where they would use additional funding if it becomes available. Rowan Cabarrus was looking for the extra,
400,000.
yeah, we put 100,000 in there, so 280?
It was another additional 380.
380,
That's
okay, to fund that. I think we talked about that. Did we talk about adding that?
We had not yet, because those would be some of the projects, if you're looking to do some one-time expenses, that would be.
Okay. Are there any areas that anybody tonight wants to talk about, or you have
In
questions?
regards to RCCC, I have no problems whatsoever with the renovations they're talking about, because I think it's going to help with adding capacity, and that's going to make our citizens more job-friendly and more employable. So I certainly would think about that. In regards to the $2.1 million that the school system is asking for, right now I'm saying no, because when I asked what it was going to be used for, they're talking about additional 675 students, but not a single new teacher was going to be hired to address those additional students. And also, the $2.1 million was not defined as to what it was going to actually be spent on. There's no details, so that I'm not inclined to agree to the additional $2.1 million unless we can get more definition as to what that's going to be used for and how that's going to help out with the proposed increase in student population, so that I'm not inclined to do that. I don't remember if there was any money set aside for technology. If there are, then I think it needs to be in conjunction with the county and working with the county in regards to Cabarrus County school systems.
Okay, we did receive, and I know you probably were in court today, we did get an email later today with a list of the items that Cabarrus County Schools was looking for those funds. One was in the event the legislature approves a pay raise, to provide the same pay raise for the locally funded positions. Another was the increase in health care costs, an increase in retirement costs, and then there was $1 million to address the salary study.
It cost $1 million to do a salary study?
Oh,
That was to address,
to fund it.
1 year of funding, positions that the salary study determines are underfunded.
What positions are underfunded?
That wasn't revealed to us. That was not given to us. You
So
said, you have
they're-
that sheet in front of you.
Yeah, so they're
They were
asking.
just saying, that's where they would use their almost $2 million.
So they're asking us to fund underfunded positions that they haven't identified as being underfunded.
At this time.
And
It was broad categories. It was frontline teacher supplements, assistant principal supplements, principal supplements, administrator supplements. It was those. Plus, I think just but individual and at an individual school and that type, no, there was not that much detail.
Was it everybody but maintenance workers?
No, I think ultimately it would have been across the board, some of it, and then there was the supplements themselves were additional.
so,
I think they in essence put in a placeholder for an amount.
What happens
In order to come to us for our budget process, because they haven't identified exactly which positions the study's not been completed yet.
what if they're not underfunded?
All I have is the information that you have.
Okay.
And what they said was to increase teacher supplements and to increase salaries for positions that are identified, but there were no details provided. You are correct. But
Okay.
this is what we got, that they are projecting a 3% increase, retirement costs to match the state for locally funded positions, and also the hospitalization cost to match the state. So,
And this came to everybody?
yes, you should have gotten that today. I got it.
Okay, I got it, it's fine, I got it now.
I didn't get it till kind of late, so.
Got it.
But that was one thing that you did ask for.
Yeah.
Or we asked for, was the detail from the school system on what they needed. That's $1.954 million think they said 2.1, so there's still a little bit of gray area in there.
And their budget was not unanimously approved, is that correct?
I'm not sure.
I have no idea. I don't
Okay.
know.
I say no to the increase. But I have a quick question. If we can.
Yeah.
Are we moving off the school system?
Or,
Well, the only
we
thing,
need-
I will make one comment, and that is, I'm not disagreeing with you. In the event that the legislature does approve a pay raise, then I do think that we should look at what's happening with locally funded positions.
I agree.
So, I mean, I think that might be premature at this point in time, because I'm hearing both, I don't know what you're hearing. I'm hearing both sides, and you may learn tomorrow when you do county assembly day, and you might find out, I'm hearing that there's a lot of pressure on the legislatures for funding to go in different directions than a pay raise for teachers. So personally, I don't think there's going to be a pay raise. So I think that part's a moot point. And then the other two items, item number 2 and item number 3, that has to do with retirement and health care, they should be able to come out of their fund balance for that. They're not very large. So the rest of it would be debatable. But I just wanted to mention that if the legislature comes through, then I do think that we need to look at that for the ones that are locally paid.
And
Fair's fair.
one other point about schools before Commissioner Meisner moves or asks another question. One thing that really bothered me also was a capital improvements project that on that list, they were asking us to fund monies to go to a school that we just built. So I don't understand why they're asking us to fund monies to a school that was just built when I thought that I understood that they were going to go to the contractor and get it worked out with the contractor. So what's the need of the money from us? So as it relates to the new schools that were built, I would be reluctant to add additional monies under capital projects for those. And it still concerns me in regards to the chillers and coolers that we're taking monies out of the classrooms and putting it elsewhere. Or we're allowing it to go elsewhere.
Is the contractor that built that school still in business?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I don't remember which school it was or who the
A.T.
contractor.
Allen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, they're, in fact, they built our arena. But yes, they're very much so in business and still going strong.
And I'm not saying the contractor did anything wrong. I just think that, I don't know why they put it on our capital improvements to fund when it's an issue they still haven't resolved with the contractor.
Maybe it wasn't in the contract.
That's not what they told us.
One thing I would, some of the projects, such as the RCC project, that we would not fund that through the current budget. We would do that. You'll have, as we've talked a little bit about, there's some money there that you may be able to fund some one-time projects with. Now, the additional current money that they're talking about, that would change the bottom line, and therefore that would change the tax rate.
When you say they, you're talking about RCCC or you're talking about Cabarrus County School System?
The additional current expense money that's being requested by any of the agents, whether it's the Health Alliance or the schools, would change the bottom line. You do have some contingency there that you could do some small things with, but nothing as large as what they're talking about.
Well, last year when we were doing our budget, we had talked about a flat budget for this year. So,
Yeah,
Chris.
well, I guess while we're still in the schools, I'll ask
Yeah.
about RCCC. Well, I can't recall, what was the request for the remodel?
They had, their cafeteria
Right.
area needs to be enlarged. They don't have enough room for all their students to come in there, or even a large portion of them. And then also, that would improve about 3,000 square feet, I believe. And then in the same project, they would remodel an additional 4,000 square feet of area that would provide storage and then several more classrooms.
Okay, and that's not included in our budget, we're gonna vote on that separate?
That would be, yeah, that
At
would be
one
separate,
time.
that's correct.
Okay.
right.
And then I wanted to ask about what is the JHE production group? mean,
J. Howard Entertainment Production
Okay.
Group.
I mean, I know who they are, but
Yeah.
what were we contributing 10,000?
That is the all-star race. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's the promotional Speed Week, Speed
Right.
Street, or whatever.
Okay.
And we're proposing to not fund that through the general fund, that we would propose to continue to fund it at that level, but it would come out of the arena fund.
Okay.
Uh,
And then the medical examiner, can you explain that?
That's a good question. You want to tackle that,
Medical
Pam?
examiner, what the medical examiner is if you have a death in the county that is suspicious or is as a result of, if there's a question about how the person died, the medical examiner does the examination and make the determination. Also, if the death occurred by accidental means but not at the hospital, the medical examiner has to sign off on the death certificate, so that we are required to fund a medical examiner to handle that. Now, typically, the medical examiner is not one person, the medical examiner is multiple people, but this is a portion of, I guess, all of their salaries.
We actually pay a fee per examination because there is about
Okay.
5 or 6 different people who do it
Okay.
for us.
And what was the increase from 2011, 2012? You recall? More.
More
More examinations
pass
required.
The demand was
More
higher.
activity.
more activity, more deaths that required investigation.
And so that's just more of a billing rather than,
It's a direct billing that we
Okay.
get a bill and we pay it.
okay,
So we guesstimate the best we can to what
Right.
that figure should be and trying to follow with history. And sometimes you are close and
yeah.
sometimes you have to amend the budget.
Where do they do their examination, at the hospital?
Yes, sir. Or they do their declarations of death at the hospital. Excuse me, and there's also sometimes, on a rare occasion, the body is sent to Chapel Hill through the UNC Medical Department.
Okay. Are there any other areas, as far as the general operating budget, that anybody needs more information on, or do you need a list of any kind broken down for us on, the things that we've talked about that, well, you sent one out today, had some, the sheriff had the position, but the funding was coming through the Cannon Foundation. So, I'm sorry, Erica, I should look at you and not at Pam. That's why Pam's looking at me like, don't call on me. There were a couple things that you've already adjusted for.
Exactly. Based on actions you had taken at your first budget workshop, I went ahead and itemized those adjustments and made those in the budget. So I sent you out a spreadsheet that reflects that. That's for the sheriff, the jail. The fund balance appropriation is because we've received the grant already from the Miriam Robert Hayes Foundation for this year, so we're going to have to appropriate that next year. We're going to have to carry it forward. And then there is another adjustment that was not discussed by the board, but it is an operational adjustment that we're going to have to make. It's $1,200 for a CryWolf annual false alarm software that emergency management needs. It's $1,200. I guess it's a matter of timing for the budget process. So we'll be reducing contingency by $1,200 to cover that expense.
I was thinking that CJPP was going dormant. Criminal Justice Partnership Program? Or is that the JCPP? I think it's CJPP is, the legislature is defunding. It would just be a pass-through for us, so you may want to check into that. I don't know if they're defunding it as of the next year's budget when they do it. You know what I'm saying?
Was that not the one we just thanked everybody for serving on?
No.
It is.
No.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Those are no county dollars. It is passed through.
It's a pass-through, just to let you, so that,
Yeah, so I'll double check to make sure we're not getting any funds for FY13. If that's the case, we'll pull those, we'll
if
reduce
the
the
state wants to
budget.
give it to us, that's fine, but
But in many cases, they make their allocations ahead of time, so I'll double check to make sure they hadn't made allocations for FY13 based on revenues they anticipate to pass through.
And check with Project Challenge, because I think that is part of the CJPP, but I think it's different, so I don't know if that's
Well, Project Challenge is part of JCPC.
JCPC,
Mhm.
okay. Okay.
Okay, the only, if there's no other questions as far as the general operating budget, we did talk previously, and you just referred to it, about having some funds to do one-time projects. So we have the capital improvement projects list from Rowan Cabarrus, which is that expansion, that 380, I believe. We have a long list of projects from Cabarrus County Schools that is not ranked based on what they feel is most important. It was ranked on dollar amount. And we have a list from Kannapolis City Schools. Some of the QSCB projects that were not funded do show up. I know there's 3 of them on Kannapolis's 5 on Kannapolis's list, and there are a few on, or there are some on Cabarrus's list, I believe. I don't have it in front of me.
I couldn't locate any on the Cabarrus list.
Okay. Well, we have those lists. And then, are there any other entities that we need to look at for one-time money besides those 3? We're good here at the county. We don't.
What is our,
Right now.
have we allocated monies, I thought we have, but have we allocated monies to make certain the Human Services building is renovated?
Yes, sir, it's in the process.
The money is already,
The money is already in.
Allocated.
It's already allocated, that's
Okay.
correct.
how about EMS? Are they taken care of in regards to their buildings?
We're okay right now. Again, they're constantly evaluating whether we need a new station anytime soon, so right now, there's no recommendations from them for an additional station, so.
How about vehicles? I know we just got a ambulance in the past 10 months,
You just agreed actually to buy two
Two,
additional
okay.
replacements, and
so there should be okay.
they
They're-
should not
they're-
need one next year.
Right. The following year, they're going to need at least 2 again, maybe 3.
And we've asked them to just build that into their budget rather than that coming back to you as a request. So it's the same way we cycle all our
Right.
equipment.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Billifer actually goes through all of our capital improvements and ranks them like A, B, C, and his budget request included all what he considered most critical.
And when I was looking through the budget, it seems like Mr. Billifer we're up to speed on our preventive maintenance, and that's on a regular schedule. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
because we put in, gosh knows how many chillers and coolers at a lot of our facilities about 3 years ago and then 2 years ago.
Yeah, like the larger buildings, there's multiple units on them, and we try to get 1 or 2 a year, especially at the Human Services Center. We'll knock, I think there's 16 up there that we try to get 1 or 2 a year, so we are constantly doing this, and they continue to get funded.
So I don't know of anything else.
So what I would say is that if you can, Commissioners, between now and Thursday, if you can pull up the list for the 3 different school systems that we fund. County Manager, you suggested somewhere we might have between 3 and 4 million that we could do
Yes, ma'am.
some projects with. And look and see which projects other than Rowan Cabarrus, I think we all agreed to that one. But look between Kannapolis City Schools, Cabarrus County Schools, are there any projects that you feel are more critical and that you think that we might need to look at, or any preferences, so that we can have a dialogue on Thursday and be able to give some direction to staff?
That's above the budget.
Yes, sir.
Or
Yes.
outside the budget.
That is
Outside
outside,
the
because it's
budget.
one-time money, so you wouldn't put it into the operating, because then next year you'd have a hole to plug. So there are a lot of capital needs that both school systems have, and we talked a lot about technology, I know, and so we may want to put some more money into, now we have the technology line item, we may want to put money in there. as far as technology goes. You can look at the list and see.
Once we put money, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Okay.
talking about technologies, if we were to set up monies in technology, for instance, there's a lot of things that I think I would think that we can realize savings in technology if it were implemented. If we set it up, does it go to what we work with them for it to go to?
If it's in the technology, the new technology line item, correct me if I'm wrong, or you want to jump in anytime, then the Cabarrus County Technology Department would have input into how those funds were spent.
Okay.
Do you want to chime in, Pam?
Yeah,
I know we've talked about it.
you've got about a little over $140,000 that's been established in the technology line item for Cabarrus County Schools due to the ADM students switch. And then there's also the opportunity to adopt the school's budget in a different fashion where you break it down, I guess, in their world by different kinds of functions, and technology would be one of those particular functions. It's how Mecklenburg County Schools adopts their budget. It puts a little more constraint on where the money goes and how it can be shifted between one area to the other. So it would limit their flexibility in moving monies once the money was adopted.
And is our budget that's been presented to us in that format?
No, you've only gotten two pieces of paper from Cabarrus County Schools, one indicating a dollar figure and the one we received
Or
today.
can we get it broken down into that?
Yes, you got it last year broken down that way.
Okay. But we can't get it that way this year?
I'm sure if you ask again in a different
Well,
way,
I
you
think that
might.
we just asked for
Well,
Cabarrus
I'd
County.
ask-
You want the budget that the school board approved.
As it was presented to us in the same fashion as last year.
Okay. We sure can make that request. Okay. And the idea is, and when will we have the additional language when will we understand kind of, I guess, how Mecklenburg has done it? And when will you help us to understand how we're going to look at our budget that way?
Well, we actually have that information, and it's, as Pam just said, it's very similar to the way they've presented the information already, in the past. So it should be a very easy transition for us if they provide us the information that we've requested.
It's the exact same format that they gave us last year. They break their money between local and state, and the format that Mecklenburg County uses was line for line, exactly the way they presented their budget to us under the local funding last year.
Okay, so we need to have it, it'd be preferable to have it by Thursday. If they've already adopted it with the school board's approval, they should be able to.
But they may not have adopted it in the format that we're requesting it in.
I said, if they adopted it in that same format as last year, we should be able to get it from them by Thursday, and that would be the request. If they have not adopted it in that format, then we need it by our work session. Because the next meeting, we approve it, the regular meeting next month, so, I mean, we would need to have something, I would think, wouldn't you agree, in time to be able to look at it and ask questions?
Or that will give us our decision.
There you go. So, we'll make a request to Cabarrus County Schools. Did we get from Kannapolis City Schools the way that we need it?
Not in that format, so we'll have to make that same request.
Okay, so we would make the request of both school systems in that format. And Kannapolis did it that way last year?
No, Kannapolis has always presented the information the same way that they have each year. Last year, more questions were asked of Cabarrus, and they provided a lot more detail.
Okay, so we
So, I mean, if
probably
that's the
can't get
accept-
Kannapolis until the work session.
It most likely, I think it's a state requirement on how they turn their information in, because it's the way they're supposed to report their financials. It's the way their financial statements are done.
Okay,
So that information should be similar, but it may be also a good way to provide guidance of what the schools actually give you each year when they present their budget, instead of two totally different formats, to be consistent with what they present to you, so it'll be the same format.
well, it's important for us and I think the general public to understand their budget. And if we get it in the same format year after year, we become more familiar with it, and it makes a lot more sense to us, and it's a whole lot easier for me to explain it to somebody when I'm asked questions. So that would be a good thing to do. So, okay, we'll get that from the schools, and I would ask that all the commissioners look at the capital improvement plans for Kannapolis City Schools, Rowan Cabarrus, and Cabarrus County Schools, which we got last week. Look at that list and pull out the items that you think are, that speak to you as being more critical, let's put it that way, and see if we can come up with a list of projects that we would entertain talking about funding in capital improvement, one-time money. Okay, be it technology or be it other projects. Yes, sir.
When you get finished, I was just going to add something. I just want to go down the list of some of the things we talked to tonight about the school nurses. Were okay to move forward as we discussed, that we will take them and fund them through the Health Alliance with those additional days, which is going to be somewhere in the area of 50,000 total. Ballpark for now. We'll get you the number, but that would not change the bottom line. We can pull that from your contingency. You had about 600 built into the budget right now. You've got about
620,000.
of contingency. So
Contingency.
you can use some of that. Typically, you're carrying 200,000 to 300,000, so you've got quite a bit more in there than you would typically have. So if you want to move that money, we can move that without having to change the bottom line. We can move that out of contingency into that line item, so.
It was also stated to make up the difference on Kannapolis City Schools where they did not fully fund the nurses.
Right, that was, okay, my understanding, that was all in the 50,000, but whatever the number's gonna be.
That was
we'll
just the
have
increase
to-
for Cabarrus counties for the 5 days.
Okay, I thought theirs was 40 and.
If you'll get
theirs was
those-
9. We'll get those numbers back.
If you'll get all those numbers back, then I think that we should fund, if that's something we've said to the Health Alliance, you can't cut school nurses. I mean, we told them that, because they come to us and say, if you don't fund us, we're going to cut school nurses. So if we're going to say we're going to fund school nurses, then I think we should fund school nurses, and that should be part of us. We've got money there that we can move to cover it. So I'm in favor of school nurses. You guys need to weigh in on if you're in favor of that or not.
Do school nurses work whenever it's like a teacher work day in the schools?
They're only there when the students are
Whenever
there.
the students are, okay. I'm fine with moving it the way we discussed earlier.
And we may also already be funding that shortfall for Kannapolis because we give them the money to support that department. So we may not,
May not be new money.
we may,
in there.
right, it may be the same money. It's just that part actually came directly from us.
Right.
I'm okay with it.
Larry?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Next.
The next one was Forester, no truck for this year, push that out to the following year, and have them come in and talk to you guys and the other stakeholders as to what their intent.
And also, assurances are fine. How are they going to back up the assurances?
Well, sure. Yeah.
I mean, so if they want to talk about assurances, that's fine, but how are they going to, what's the proof in the pudding?
Right. The budgets or the agencies that came before you, you saw their presentations and our recommendations. Is there anything that you wanted to change on those? The community care, I did not recommend to continue funding that. Their initial request was $100,000. We hear tonight that it was 50, that they changed it to 50, and they only need it for one more year, so.
And you also said there was $76,000 in their contingency?
That's the way I am reading it here, and Eric and I were looking at it earlier. And again, that's about a $309,000 budget, and the county budget's 50 of it, so.
I would be willing to accept your,
Recommendation?
yes.
Yeah, and I believe you said that Stanley County and Rowan County does not fund them?
They do not fund it, and therefore they don't have a program. Yeah.
Okay.
The rest of that budget is funded through state grants, so I assume that those state grants will still continue. It'll just be minus the 50,000 that we give, so. We've not heard anything to the contrary, whether our money is a match for that other money or not, but, no.
Yeah, if they have the reserves, then I'm more inclined to see that.
I'll confirm
If you'll
that and make
complete,
sure.
as far as I'm concerned, and
Okay.
I may be the one or the two, but that's fine. I certainly understand, and I certainly agree with what Commissioner Meisner is saying. I just, I'd like to see what their contingency is.
Okay. The only other thing that, through my message to you guys, was the recommendation or the request for that additional holiday, sort of floater holiday for the employees. We've not really discussed that. Instead, we weren't able to give them raises. We haven't been able to do merit raises. This will be the 4th year.
What is this now?
It would be
I
a-
didn't, this is the first I've heard about it.
Okay, it would be the opportunity to reward our employees for doing more with less and continue to do so even with this year's budget, an opportunity that would not hit the bottom line of the budget. We won't give raises. We're not asking for raises. It would be a one-time for fiscal year 2013 to allow for a sort of a floating holiday or a birthday holiday type thing, where they would have an additional 8 hours of vacation or time off,
And it's one time.
one time.
I got no problems with that.
I'm okay with that.
That's just for this year.
Yes, sir.
This year as being July. until
July.
June.
July 1st
Yeah.
to
Right.
June 30th, that's correct, yes, sir.
My year's different.
Well,
They would be able to take off their birthday, or, I mean, unless it was right in the middle of some time when they were swamped, and they'd have to get approval from whoever
Supervisor.
their supervisor is to say that that is the day they could take off. We used to do that when I was at United Way. That was one that we got, was you got your birthday off, or sometime around there.
they
Which was
did
kinda
get a
nice.
cost of living increase last year, though, didn't they?
They did get cost of living, yes, sir. It's merit raises that they've not gotten since 2009.
Chris?
How many years was the cost of a living adjustment given? Has that been every year? The cost of,
No, we,
It's just-
Two of the last 3 years.
to the last 3, yeah, we
If
got it.
it's-
We missed a year,
The year we missed it was 0.
right.
The COLA would have been 0.
COLA would have been 0.
It's not that we
So
didn't get it,
did
it
not.
would have been 0.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, our COLA is based on the national, the CPI, and what that is, what that number is in December of that year, right? Or January.
Rounded down to the next 0.5%, and that's what made that other one go down to 0.
December.
I'm fine with it. As long as the commissioners get one of those days.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll find them one in
I'm
there
just-
for you. Larry, are you
Our day off
okay
is
with
Saturday,
it?
Sunday.
Okay, and then the EDC, I
That's
just
clear.
want to make sure
Mhm.
to move the 50,000? Okay, so we want to hold that till Thursday, right? That's fine, I just want to make sure, I don't want to jump over something, so, okay, so we'll bring that back up Thursday. And again, if you'll come up with a list, just look at those 3 lists and see which items jump out at you, and if you can bring a list, or, if you can bring a list, or if you could maybe email it so that, we can pull it up if we need to, or we can make copies of the list so everybody can kind of look and see if there's certain projects that we might want to fund with one-time dollars. Okay? Anything else?
Long as we don't have a tax increase, right?
Nothing in addition to what the county manager's
I mean, for
recommending?
the budget.
Nothing in addition to what
Think
the county
about- think
manager's
about the-
recommending?
Think about the taxpayers out there.
I don't disagree. If there's nothing else, is there anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, then we will recess to Thursday at 4 o'clock. Motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Good night.